Hello there, my name is Dr. Michael Bennett. I'm a urologist and men's health specialist, and for over 3 decades, I've had the honor of working closely with men in their 50s, 60s, 70s, even into their 80s, who are looking for real answers. Not just about performance or prescriptions, but about energy, confidence, and feeling connected again, both to themselves and to the people they love. Now, what I'm about to share may not be easy to hear, but it's something I can no longer ignore. There's a silent habit I see in the majority of my older male patients. It's common, it's private, and many people, even doctors, assume it's harmless. But after 60, it can quietly become one of the biggest reasons men feel tired, disconnected, and unsure of themselves. That habit is how you masturbate. Now, before you click away or feel uncomfortable, stay with me. This isn't about judgment. It's about understanding your body, your hormones, your nervous system, and why what worked for you at the 30th of may now be silently working against you. You see, after 60, your body changes in subtle but powerful ways. Blood flow becomes more sensitive, nerves react differently, and hormonal rhythms shift. And when we continue certain physical habits out of routine, especially ones we never talk about, those habits can slowly chip away at our vitality. Not overnight, but gradually, quietly. Until one day you realize you don't feel quite like yourself anymore. You might chalk it up to aging. And yes, aging is part of the picture. But it's not the whole story. What if the way you've been stimulating yourself in private is quietly undermining your circulation, your energy, and even your ability to emotionally connect? That's what we're going to unpack together in this video. I'll show you the exact pattern I've observed in thousands of men. We'll look at how overstimulation affects not just your physical body, but your brain chemistry, your emotional well-being, and even your relationship. More importantly, I'll share a safe, natural, and powerful path forward so you can begin to restore what's been lost, your strength, your sensitivity, and your ability to feel fully alive again. So take a deep breath. You're not broken, you're not alone, and you're certainly not done. Let's begin. Let's talk about what's really happening in your body after 60 and why the way you've been touching yourself may be doing more harm than good. I know it sounds surprising. Most men have been told their whole lives that masturbation is normal, even healthy. And yes, in many cases, it absolutely is. But as we age, the body begins to respond differently to stimulation. That doesn't mean you've lost your ability to enjoy intimacy. It just means your system, especially your circulation and nervous system, needs something different than it used to. Over the past 30 years, I've listened to thousands of older adults, men and women, describe what they thought were random, unrelated problems. Cold feet, trouble sleeping, low libido, a vague feeling that something just feels off. But when I look closer, there's a pattern. These symptoms often start showing up around the same time. Habits like intense, rushed self-pleasure have become routine. You see, after 60, your blood vessels become more sensitive. Nerve endings are more easily exhausted. Your hormonal rhythms slow down. That means that the same amount of pressure, speed, or friction that once felt thrilling can now quietly wear you down, reducing blood flow, overwhelming nerve endings, and exhausting tissues that are already struggling to stay vital. You might not feel pain, but you might notice other signs: softer erections, less sensation, lower arousal, or just feeling flat afterward. These are not failures, they're signals. Your body is quietly telling you, this is too much, I need something else. And it's not just physical. I've had many patients tell me that their relationships have slowly grown distant. The warmth, the closeness, the emotional intimacy they used to share with a partner feels like a memory. And often, it's not because love is gone. It's because the way they've been relating to their own body has shifted into something mechanical, rushed, or disconnected. When you approach self-pleasure with the same force and urgency you used decades ago, your body can't keep up. And over time, that takes a toll, not just on circulation, but on confidence, closeness, and the feeling of being truly alive. But here's the good news. Once you become aware of this shift, you can begin to change it. You don't have to give anything up. You just need to learn how to listen to your body in a new way. And that's exactly what we'll begin exploring next. We've talked about the physical side, the nerves, the blood flow, the hormones. But if I'm being honest with you, that's only part of the picture. What I've learned over decades of sitting with men just like you is this. Behind every physical symptom, there's almost always an emotional story waiting to be heard. This next part isn't about science, it's about the heart. See, most men don't come into my office saying, "Doc, I think my masturbation routine is hurting me emotionally." They say things like, "I just feel off," or "My wife and I aren't as close as we used to be." They say, "I lie next to her in bed and I still feel alone." And what I've come to understand is that this isn't about failure, it's about disconnection. Not just from a partner, but from the self. I remember one man in particular. He was a retired school principal, proud of his career, strong in his values. But when he sat across from me, he looked tired, not just in his face, but in his spirit. He said, "I don't feel like a man anymore." Not because of his body aging. What hurt him most was the growing emotional distance between him and his wife. And when we dug a little deeper, he admitted that he'd turned to porn. Not because he wanted to hide, but because it felt easier. Easier than risking rejection. Easier than facing how awkward intimacy had become. He watched videos with headphones on, late at night, under the covers. He didn't realize that every time he chose escape over connection, the emotional gap widened. This, my friend, is the consequence no one talks about. When self-pleasure becomes an escape route instead of a bridge to connection, we start to feel more isolated. We don't mean to. But the more we retreat into private, high-pressure habits, the harder it becomes to reach out, to open up, to be touched, not just physically, but emotionally. This isn't about shame. It's about awareness, because how we relate to our own body reflects how we relate to others. If our inner world becomes rushed, disconnected, or mechanical, it's only natural that our outer relationships begin to feel the same. But here's the hopeful part. It can change. You don't have to abandon pleasure. You just have to reshape it, redirect it, turn it into something that nourishes, not numbs, that connects, not isolates. And in the next part, I'll show you how. So now that we understand what's happening, physically and emotionally, let's talk about how to begin the healing process. This isn't about giving things up. It's not about shame or restriction. Healing comes when we bring more intention, more gentleness, and more respect into how we engage with our own body, especially in this later stage of life. Over the years, I've developed a simple 3-step method. It's not complicated, and it doesn't require any medication. But I've seen it completely change the way men feel in their bodies, and more importantly, in their relationships. I call it Feather Touch, 3-Day Reset, and Reconnection. Step 1. Feather Touch. After 60, your body doesn't want more pressure. It wants more presence. Instead of chasing a quick release, the goal is to reawaken sensitivity. Try using a much lighter touch than you're used to, something almost like a soft caress. Use warm, natural lubrication if needed, and give your body time. Don't rush. This helps retrain your nervous system to respond with feeling, not force. Some men tell me, "But I don't feel anything that way." I always say, "That's okay, you're not broken. You're just numb from years of overstimulation." The sensitivity comes back, with time and practice. Step 2, the 3-day reset. This is exactly what it sounds like. Pause all sexual stimulation for 72 hours. No porn, no masturbation, nothing. Just let your system rest. Many men report that during this break, they sleep better, think more clearly, and even start to feel natural arousal return without any outside stimulation. It's like rebooting a system that's been overloaded for years. Step 3, reconnection. If you have a partner, start with non-sexual touch. Just hold each other. Sit together. No expectations. Let the emotional safety rebuild slowly. If you're on your own, practice self-connection without stimulation. Sit in a quiet space. Place a hand over your chest or belly. Breathe deeply and ask yourself, "How do I feel today?" This alone can begin restoring the emotional link between body and mind. I've seen these steps change lives. One man told me that after just 1 week, he noticed something amazing. His hands felt more sensitive, his energy in the mornings returned, and most importantly, he started to feel like himself again. This isn't magic. It's biology, done with care. When you shift your relationship with pleasure from urgency to awareness, everything begins to change. In the next section, we'll talk about the warning signs, how your body may already be calling for help, even if you haven't realized it yet. Let me ask you something personal. Have you been feeling more tired lately? Not just sleepy, but that kind of heavy, dragging exhaustion that lingers no matter how much rest you get? If so, I want you to pay close attention. Because your body may already be sending you signals, soft warnings that your circulation and vitality are declining. In my practice, I've seen it time and time again. The body whispers long before it ever screams. The trouble is we've been taught to ignore those whispers, especially when they show up slowly, over months or even years. One of the earliest signs is deep fatigue. You may wake up tired or feel like your limbs are heavier than they used to be. Then comes the coldness, hands and feet that stay chilly, even in warm weather. That's a clue your blood isn't flowing freely. Other men report less sensation during touch, difficulty maintaining erections, or fewer morning erections altogether. These are often chalked up to just getting older. But they're not just aging. They're your body waving a quiet flag saying, "I'm struggling. Please pay attention." Some even notice changes in their skin. Drier, thinner, more sensitive to pressure. Others feel tingling or numbness, especially in their fingers, toes, or legs when they sit for too long. I had one patient, a 68-year-old veteran, who told me, "I thought I was just getting old. I didn't know I was wearing my system down." He'd been using high-pressure stimulation several times a week, assuming it was harmless. Once we adjusted his routine, his circulation improved, his energy returned, and so did his connection with his wife. He looked me in the eye and said, "I didn't realize how numb I'd become, physically and emotionally, until I started to feel again." That's the moment we're aiming for. That moment when your body wakes up and says, "Thank you for listening." So if any of this sounds familiar, if you've noticed these quiet shifts in your own body, I want you to know this. You're not broken. You're not too late. You're just ready for change. And if these insights are starting to resonate with you, and you'd like to keep learning more about natural ways to restore your energy and confidence, go ahead and click subscribe. That way you won't miss what's coming next. Your body has been whispering for years. By now, you may be realizing this journey we're on together isn't just about circulation. It's not just about hormones or erections or even performance. It's about something much deeper. Your sense of identity, your connection to life, and the part of you that still wants to feel fully alive. I've spent thousands of hours listening to men in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. Some come in with medical questions. But very often, as we talk, something else rises to the surface. A kind of quiet grief, a sense of loss. A question they're sometimes afraid to speak out loud. Is this it? Is this how it ends for me? And let me say this clearly, no. It doesn't have to end that way. See, we've been told the story that after a certain age, we're supposed to fade out. That passion is for the young. That desire has an expiration date. That closeness, tenderness, excitement, they all belong to the past. But that story is wrong. The truth is, your need for connection never goes away. It doesn't matter if your body has changed. Your soul still wants to feel warmth. Your heart still wants to be seen, held, and loved. And that's not weakness. That's life. That's what makes us human. Earlier, I mentioned that how we treat our bodies, especially when no one is looking, shapes how we show up in the world. And that's why this isn't just about sex. It's about respecting your body as it is now, with its sensitivities and needs. It's about shifting from how fast or how hard to how present and how connected. When men start doing that, even in small ways, they often come back to me weeks later, standing taller, speaking with more ease, smiling for no reason. Because something deeper has returned. A sense of being in their body again. A sense of being themselves. One man told me, "For the first time in years, I looked in the mirror and saw someone I actually recognized." That is the transformation we're aiming for. Not just stronger blood flow or hormone balance, though those matter too, but a return to self-worth. To knowing that you're still capable of feeling, loving, and living with joy. You are not a machine. You are not past your prime. You are not invisible. You are here. You still matter. And your story, your real story, is still being written. In the next part, we'll talk about how small changes in your habits can lead to big shifts in how you feel, think, and connect, not just in the bedroom, but in your daily life. So let's talk about what happens when you actually begin to make these small changes. They don't have to be dramatic. You don't need to overhaul your life or follow some complicated routine. What I've seen over and over is this. When you shift your approach to your body, from performance to presence, from urgency to care, everything starts to change. One man in his early 70s told me something I'll never forget. He said, "I stopped rushing. I started touching myself like I actually mattered." For the first time in years, he didn't feel numb. He felt alive. And it wasn't just in the bedroom. He found himself laughing more, waking up with energy, saying yes to life again. Hey, SOA clans, why does this happen? Because your body responds to how it's treated. When you treat it like a machine, it will break down. But when you treat it like a living, breathing, sacred part of you, it begins to heal. This is where habits come in. It's not about what you do once. It's about what you repeat. A few minutes of mindful self-connection. A slower breath. A lighter touch. Skipping the screen and choosing stillness. These may sound like small things, but repeated over days and weeks, they send a powerful message to your body. You are safe. You are valued. You are allowed to feel again. And that message changes everything. Because when your body begins to feel safe, your nervous system relaxes. Blood flows more freely. Hormones start to rebalance. Emotions that were buried come up. Not to overwhelm you, but to be seen, released, and healed. And from there, intimacy becomes possible again. Not just sexual intimacy, but emotional closeness. A soft conversation. A quiet moment of laughter. The kind of connection that doesn't have to prove anything, because it's already real. I want to be clear. This is not about chasing youth. You are not here to become the man you were at 25. You're here to become the man you're meant to be now. Wise, present, and powerfully alive in your own skin. So start small. Take one breath, one gentle moment, one honest pause. Let your body know, I'm here, I'm listening, I'm willing to come back to you. And in the next section, I'll show you how to recognize the signs, those early whispers from your body that are already pointing the way back to balance and connection. Your body is always speaking to you, not with words, of course, but with sensations, with shifts in energy, with quiet nudges you might have ignored or brushed off as just age. But what if those little discomforts weren't just aging? What if they were messages? In my experience, your body rarely breaks down without giving you a warning first. The problem is, most of us were never taught how to listen. You might notice that you're not waking up with morning erections as often, or that they're weaker. Maybe your feet are colder, your hands feel numb at times, or your skin seems thinner, drier, more sensitive. These things may not seem like much, but together they paint a picture. Your circulation is slowing down. Your system is asking for support. And then there's the mental fog, that subtle disinterest in things you once enjoyed. The way you feel disconnected from your partner or from yourself. That's not normal aging. That's your body asking for a different kind of care. The kind that's slower, more attuned, and more intentional. One man I worked with told me he used to feel like he was walking around in a dream. Everything felt distant. His emotions were flat. He assumed it was depression or just part of getting older. But when we slowed down his stimulation habits, less friction, more awareness, his whole system began to change. He started feeling his fingertips again. He began noticing beauty in small things. He told me, it's like someone turned the color back on in my life. That's the power of paying attention early, before the body starts screaming. Because when you ignore the whispers long enough, they turn into symptoms. When you ignore the symptoms, they turn into breakdowns. But if you learn to listen now, you can shift everything, gently, naturally, without fear. So I invite you to reflect for a moment. What has your body been trying to tell you lately? What signals have you brushed aside? What would it mean to stop and really listen? You don't have to do it perfectly. You just have to begin. And if you're finding this message meaningful, I'd love for you to click like and hit subscribe so you can keep receiving guidance like this, step by step, as we walk this journey together. In the final part of our journey together, I'll share the most important truth of all, why this work matters. Not just for your health, but for your purpose, your joy, and your right to feel fully alive again. We've covered a lot in this video. We've talked about the physical side, how overstimulation can quietly damage circulation, nerves, and hormone balance. We've explored the emotional side, how disconnection from your own body can ripple outward into your relationships, your sense of confidence, and your desire to live fully. But before we close, I want to bring it all back to what matters most. This isn't just about sex. It's not just about health. It's about reclaiming something far more powerful. Your right to feel, your right to connect, your right to live. In my years of working with men, I've heard a quiet grief that doesn't often get named. The feeling of being invisible, the ache of lying next to someone and still feeling alone. The unspoken belief that this part of life, the part where we touch, feel, and open our hearts, might be over. But I need you to know, it's not over. It's never too late. I've seen reconnection happen at 65, 72, even 85. I've seen men who thought they were beyond repair come back to life, not because of a pill, not because of a trick, but because they started treating their bodies and their hearts with care, patience, and respect. They slowed down, they listened, they touched differently, and in doing so, something incredible happened. They started to feel again. They felt more present in their skin, more awake in the morning, more open with their partners. Some even told me, I didn't know how numb I'd become until I started to come back. That's what this journey's about. Not perfection, not performance, not chasing youth. It's about presence, about showing up, honestly, gently, and fully, for yourself and the people you love. So if something in this message has stirred something in you, if your gut is saying, yes, this is me, I want to invite you to take just one step tonight. Slow down, breathe, touch with care. Choose connection over escape, awareness over autopilot, compassion over criticism. Because when you do, you're not just improving your blood flow or restoring sensation. You're reclaiming something sacred, your capacity to feel deeply, your right to be loved fully, and your ability to live like you're truly alive at any age. If this message resonated with you, I'd be honored if you'd click like, hit subscribe, and share this video with someone you care about. Your story matters, your healing matters, and you are absolutely not alone. Let's keep walking this journey together.